Thank you, everyone, for sticking around after the film La Frontera, The Border, to talk to filmmaker David in our brief Q&A. David, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor.
Yeah. We'll talk about the film. I think it originally premiered in 2019, and then because of COVID, we would have loved to have played it last year. Last year we had a very small version of the festival, just a small little showcase, so we couldn't play all the films that we wanted to play. We certainly would have played your film, but I'm glad that we were able to play the film this year. But talk a little bit about the whole process, the whole the journey of coming up with the idea for the film and everything, and now the release of the film.
Yes, I thought that I already lost the chance, but that's what I was so glad to hear that you liked the film and that you wanted to have it on this edition. So it feels great too.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. I mean,
and
talk about you were in Spain. Did you went to school in Spain, right? And is that how you came up with the idea when you were living there in Spain?
yes, I had the chance to go abroad to study abroad in Barcelona. I went there to get a master degree in directing at the SCAC, the Audiovisual Cinema School at Barcelona. And there I got the chance to make another master program in editing. But actually, what I was seeking for was the opportunity to either to stay there or come back to my country, because most of the things that were happening those days in Colombia were telling me to stay away. We were having a peace treatment deal signing was happening for those years. It was around 2016, and we were very polarized as a country. People were not getting along. Um, so for a filmmaker to come back and trying to pursue a career in cinema, that was not like a good prospect. So I I I came anyways. I mean, I came back anyways, and I wanted to reflect about what I was leaving behind, and what I was what was happening those days in my country. What I was leaving behind was in Spain. You know that Catalonia traditionally have wanted to separate from the rest of Spain. So, and back in those days, Donald Trump was running for presidency in the United States, and one of the main goals that he set was to separate from Mexico. And here in Colombia, we were trying to stay away from the Venezuelans that were having this massive migration from their country. So there were many separations everywhere, and I was trying to reflect on the reasons behind those separations, because I remember that when I was little, this kind of uh, technology revolution that we lived made us feel proud about how we could connect with everyone on immediately. I mean, I could connect with whoever I wanted in a minute. Doesn't matter where that person was in any part of the world, and that made us proud. I mean, to have that chance to connect. But now we were trying to disconnect. Now we were trying to stay away to feel more safe. We were trying to set some barriers between each other, and that's why I felt that I needed to explore those motivations that were behind that set of our mind. We were feeling so secure staying aside that I think that we needed to reconnect somehow. That's the main reason why I wanted to tell the story of the border, and that's why the title was The Border, as simple as it was from the beginning. even though some people recommended me to come up with another title that was more commercial or more specific. But as the metaphor was the border, because it's not only a geographical place, but it's a status of the mind, that's what I wanted to name it after the border.
Yeah, it's such a simple but I think profound title that carries with it so much meaning. Like you said, there's the political aspect of a border there, and then like you said, there has been this, in the last 5 years or 10 years, this sort of move towards more isolation and more all over the world, as you pointed out. But not just a political border, but then you can also say the border between, fantasy and reality, or dreams and reality, and even life and death. And so I like that that metaphor, can be that word can be interpreted so many ways, and your film sort of deals with all these borders.
Between good and bad, also because me being a Latin American guy, I was used to some kind of a narrative where we consider that there is good and bad people, and that's something that we got from the soap operas. You know that there all the characters are somehow at the at the fullest. When if they are good, they are so good that they have no sides, or if they are bad, they are so bad that there is not any good anywhere. So for me, it was important to create some characters where you couldn't see the line between being good or being bad. So there is another border, and that border we all have that border, because somehow when we relate to people, if the chances are good, we get to have a good relationship. I mean, we can have a friendship if we can connect in a good way, but sometimes the circumstances around us um, make it difficult for us to connect in a good way, and that's when you have not a good appreciation from a person. But that doesn't mean that that person is a bad person. That means that you couldn't connect in a good way with that person.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the idea of it's more nuanced. It's not black or white, and it's not real life is more subtle than that. Um, there's also the idea of ethnicities and different cultures, different races. You're primarily following indigenous characters, the YU. Talk about telling their story, or telling part of their story, and sort of how that relates to the border, and a little bit of the maybe some context of the border conflict that was happening during the time.
Well, I am from Barranquilla. Barranquilla is at the North Caribbean, but my parents are from La Guajira. La Guajira is another state from the north. Also, I mean, it's also at the Caribbean, and at La Guajira is where the Wayu indigenous community is set. They are living there. So I have been very close to them for many years. I mean, since I was a little boy, we always went on vacations to these places, to my parents' hometown, and somehow I was very connected to the meaning of to some meanings, to some special meanings that they have for many um, aspects of their ethnicity. I mean, there were some things that I wanted to tell somehow in a story, because I feel that they have a powerful meaning, and those things happen to be uh, about the female perspective on some aspects of life. I mean, for the Wayuu indigenous woman, the meaning of the dreams are very important and some are some kind of a revelation or of deep aspects of what they feel inside. And I wanted to tell a story where the character could somehow reflect what she feels, even if she cannot do that on her daily basis because of the difficult situation that she's going through. She could do that through her dreams, right? And release and feel like more um, uh, at peace with herself. I mean, and that's something that the Wayuu indigenous community have done for many years in a very um, beautiful way, because as a community they have been neglected, they have been somehow robbed, they have been uh, they have been robbed in many ways that they have come to to find a way to get through that in a very powerful way that I wanted to portray through the main character. And that's when you mix the first thing that I told you, that I wanted to create a metaphor about this border that we have between each other, with the meanings that I could find on this ethnicity. That was when I knew what the story was going to be about. I knew that I wanted to set the story on this place, and that couldn't happen anywhere else in the world.
Yeah. Talk also about how you know I've heard that all the, so this is your first feature film, but you made numerous short films, but they almost all revolve around female characters, and talk about the importance of a female character being at the center of not just this story, but all the stories that you've been telling.
Yes, well, that's something that came up naturally. And I remember one day that I showed a script, a short film script to a friend. She was a producer, she is a producer. And when she read, the first thing that she said was a female leading lady again. So I was like, oh, that's true. I at the time I had made only like 3 short films, but all of them were with female leading characters. And from there, at the beginning, I felt like a little, how do you say, like I didn't want that to be that way, like a little repulsive, or a little less than repulsive.
Like resistant
Resistant.
or
I
hesitant.
felt I felt a little resistant to that idea because I felt that I wasn't being authentic enough. I mean, I wasn't having a good perspective. So I was creating kind of similar characters. And at the time, I wanted to be creative. And I felt like being creative was creating a very um, different kind of characters. But later, I realized that there were many reasons why I probably was writing female driven stories, and one of them are that I have three sisters, 3 old sisters. Well, I have to say they are old. They don't like me to say that they are older than me, but I have to say that because uh, then being older than me means that uh, I was following them somehow, because they are a beautiful independent woman, and that means that they were at the center stage of our life. I mean, at the family events and everywhere. So somehow I got used to be some kind of a camera following them and seeing the life through their perspective. So I have 3 sisters. I have my mother, and later came my niece that was raised next to me when I was little. She was born. So that means that I could have that perspective naturally. And I was having that perspective naturally when I was writing those stories. And I remember that after that, there was an idea for another character that was going to be a male character, and but that wasn't working until I changed the idea to creating to turning that into a female character. The story became 10 times more powerful and more complex and more interesting for me to tell the story just because of the character.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it definitely. I think in a way it subverts the audience expectations, but I think, like you said, it adds so much more to the character. Can you talk about maybe some of the films, other films or filmmakers that have influenced you or this film?
Well, I really love I love films more than filmmakers. I mean, there is not only a filmmaker that I could say that has. Well, maybe the Dardenne brothers. I love the Dardenne brothers films.
Brothers. Okay.
Yes, I love the Iranian cinema. I love Asghar Farhadi. Actually, a Separation is a
Oh,
story that I I I I watch every now and then because I love this kind of cinema where you cannot say who's right and who's wrong. I mean, there are two characters wanting opposite things, but every character has a good perspective on the situation. I mean, as a spectator, you cannot say who's gonna win because it's not about winning. It's about people with reasons. And that kind of cinema. And I really like also Mommy from Xavier Dolan. I
oh,
like
okay.
some Almodovar films too. Yes, that's at the top of my head right now.
Yeah. And how about the film? I'm sure you've gotten this, maybe not a comparison, direct comparison, but Birds of Passage. I'm sure with that also does deals with the YU people. I'm sure you've had that mentioned to you a lot.
Yes, that's right. Actually, Birds of Passage was produced well, not at the same time, but it was produced near to the time when I was producing The Border. But The Border, being my first feature film, was not as easy to post produce, so it took longer. That's why it seems to be like 1 year after, but actually it was shot kind of at the same time, almost at the same time. So I didn't have the chance to have that as a reference, as a prior reference, but I knew that Ciro was going to talk about the Wayu indigenous community. It was going to be about another period of time, but well, yes, it talks about the same collective, and somehow he represents this that I told you about the woman being so attached to so connected um, to the that part of their dreams that could reveal something about their reality, right? I mean, they connect between life and death through their dreams, and that's what I would say that have in common
Yeah.
both films. What else did you see, like, from your perspective?
Oh, I mean, with the whole dreams, I mean, you have to talk about Buñuel, I guess. You'd have to talk about, I mean, so many things. But I do like the Ashgar Farhadi, the idea again that there is no right and wrong, that you change perspective, as you find out more about the characters, if you find out more information, you sort of think, okay, well, they're right, and then you think, oh no, they're right. Oh
Yeah.
no, they're right. So
Yes, in the end, they have to get along. I mean, somehow you can keep your reasons, I will keep mine, but we can respect each other and we can live together. That's at the end, that's what we need to do as a society, and that's what we are not in the willing to do, because we are nowadays on in the social media, like preaching about what we feel is right and thinking that everybody else is wrong.
Yeah, we'll never, change our opinion. We'd rather die than change our opinion. It seems like.
But we have to change that.
Talk about have you been able to screen this film publicly anywhere since COVID? I think you had the screening in Cairo, right? But then anything else in person?
In Cairo, but it was prior to the pandemic. After the pandemic began, we had the chance to go to India, to the India International Film Festival. So yes, I was there in Goa. It was a very good experience because you know that in India they have a big industry, a huge industry. So there was a lot of people after the session asking and talking about. I really love what I love the most is how the people can relate to something that is near to them that is happening in the film. I mean, something that happens in the film can be similar to something that happens miles away from here, but somehow has the same perspective, the same feeling. That means that the story could happen in any context. Of course, the situation maybe would be different or the characters would be different, but the feeling would remain the same. And that's nice because somehow it talks about human relationships and the needs. We have the same needs
Yeah.
somehow to feel loved by someone, because that's in the end what the main character wanted. She wanted to have a family. She wanted to feel loved and protected, and even if that meant to have a family with two strangers by the second part of the story, or having the family that she had at the beginning. She was pursuing the opportunity to have a family.
Yeah. How about any screenings locally? Have you had a chance to do anything like
Oh,
Colombia?
no, we were going to have the premiere, the national premiere at FICCI, Cartagena FICCI, but the pandemic happened. The outbreak of the pandemic was during the festival. I mean, we were already there. I had a special screening with people with disabilities. I mean, the Ministry of Telecommunications chose two films from the whole selection, one documentary and one fiction, and they chose The Border to screen to a special audience, people with disabilities. So they had audio description,
Yeah.
and it was really nice because getting to listen to the audio description of the film is like you had all written down on the script, then you convert that into something else, and now somebody is catching what you did into something new, and it was beautiful. It was like a circle.
Yeah.
It's a good experience, and they really enjoy it. It was nice. It was nice, but we didn't have the chance to screen it to more audience, because on the day that we were going to have the premiere, they canceled the event.
Mm. Well, what's next for you? What projects are you working on?
Well, right now I am working on the promotion of my first miniseries. It's called Vida de Colores, Colorful Life. It's a miniseries of 6 episodes. It's going to air on a national TV network, a public network here in Colombia, and it was selected for the Los Angeles Latino International Film Festival, now happening in the beginning of next month. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm working on the promotion of this project, and I am still pursuing the opportunity to have the national premiere of The Border. You know that the the conditions have changed for everyone, so um, we are trying to find the way to do it. Probably not in theaters like we thought we could do before the pandemic, but I still have that urge to to let the people watch the film. I want to see
Hmm.
the reaction.
Well, how can people stay connected with the film or stay up to date with you and what you're working on the film? Any social media? What's how can they keep up to date on your news?
Sure. Well, I have social media. I have Instagram. My Instagram account is David dos the two the number two David two Celedon Celedon with C. That's my name, David. The two is because I'm David,
Yeah.
and Celedon is my second last name.
Okay. And then the film, does the film have a website or Facebook?
It has a Facebook and it has an Instagram account at La Frontera Film.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for talking with us. Wish it could be in person, but the next best thing, and glad that we were able to show the film at least virtually and bring it to a wider audience. And hopefully, whichever projects you have in the future, we will help bring to the people of Austin and give you that opportunity to finally come to Austin.
Thank you very much. That's enough for me to have the chance to be in your selection, to have the chance to connect with your audience. That's huge for me. So thank you for the opportunity, and hopefully we're gonna have another chance to meet.
I'm sure we will. It's a remarkable film, amazing film. I just, for the first time filmmaker, this is just, it's an amazing film. So I'm excited to see what you have to do next. So, uh,
Thank you.
thank you for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Don't forget to vote. You will find a ballot in your email for the Audience Award for Best Narrative Feature Film. Thank you again, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the festival. Okay. Thank you
Okay.
so much.